What if the man behind the biggest tech empires suddenly started losing it all? Not in one catastrophic implosion, but piece by piece, like a Jenga tower slowly tipping with every quiet tremble. It started on a Tuesday. The markets opened with a jolt. Tesla shares dropped 6.7% by noon, and no one could quite explain why. Maybe it was the leaked memo suggesting delays in battery production or the viral video of a Cybertruck's door jamming mid-demo. On its own, nothing disastrous. But Elon felt it. A weight. A cold, persistent nudge in the back of his mind that whispered, "You're slipping." That same morning, an X algorithm update sparked outrage after promoting a deepfake video featuring a prominent senator. Elon, in typical fashion, fired off 3 defiant tweets, then deleted them 2 hours later. But the damage was done. Journalists circled like vultures. "Is Musk overloaded?" trended globally. Internally, at SpaceX, engineers quietly postponed the next Starship launch due to a previously overlooked engine issue. Elon hadn't even been briefed. He was in Los Angeles, trying to salvage a PR meeting with legacy investors who kept glancing at their phones during his speech. That night, back at the hotel, he stared at the ceiling. He was alone. Grimes hadn't returned his calls in days, and his phone was full of unopened messages marked urgent. In the silence, his mind echoed louder. "You're not building anymore. You're reacting. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning." What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The next morning brought no mercy. CNBC ran a segment titled, "Is Everything Slipping Out of Elon Musk's Hands?" It wasn't just speculation, it was a data-backed, brutal dissection of Tesla's stagnation and SpaceX's delayed timelines. Elon's assistant tried to intercept it, but he saw the clip anyway. They played a side-by-side of his recent interview versus one from 2016. His eyes were different. Back then, they burned with conviction. Now they flickered like an overworked processor. Elon responded in the only way he knew how: action. He called an emergency meeting with his Tesla executive team and demanded a full audit of every upcoming product pipeline. "Cut the fat. We ship what works. No fluff." They nodded, but hesitated when he mentioned a full factory shift in Austin. "That'll kill morale," one VP warned. Elon stared back. "Morale's not what drives innovation. Urgency does." The team shuffled out, murmuring, confused. Elon stayed back, rubbing his temple. He hadn't slept in 36 hours. He reached for the small orange bottle in his desk drawer. 2 Ambien. Wasn't his usual dose, but what did it matter? Outside, the headlines kept coming. An investor lawsuit alleging breach of fiduciary duty. Starlink's expansion in Africa hitting regulatory roadblocks. And worst of all, rumors swirling that Apple was in talks to build a competing EV. For years, Elon had danced on the line between madman and messiah. But now, the balance was tilting. Not because of a massive failure. But because of erosion. Quiet. Steady. Undeniable. That Friday, during a walk through Tesla's Fremont plant, Elon stopped mid-step. A young engineer was arguing with her supervisor over faulty sensor calibration. Elon listened for 30 seconds, then interrupted. "What's your name?" "Amanda," she replied, nervous. "You're right," he said simply, pointing to the schematics she held. "But fix it by Tuesday. No extensions." Amanda nodded, stunned. Elon walked away, heart racing. It reminded him of the early days, when decisions were sharp and immediate, when the stakes felt like life or death. Now everything moved through committees and timelines. The chaos had calcified into bureaucracy. That night, he drove himself back to his minimalist Bel Air mansion. He didn't tell anyone he was leaving. No security. No assistant. Just the whir of a Model S cutting through LA traffic. He needed air. Real air. Not filtered through headlines and shareholder reports. At home, he opened a bottle of red wine and collapsed on the floor. Not from exhaustion, exactly, but from something deeper. A tiredness that sleep couldn't fix. He opened his personal laptop. No tabs. No work. Just a blank document. He typed one sentence, "Is it worth it anymore?" Then deleted it. Then typed it again. He didn't send it. He didn't save it. But he didn't close the window either. At 3 a.m., his phone buzzed. A message from his eldest son, "Hey, saw the news. You good?" He stared at the message for 5 minutes before replying. "Still standing." "You?" "Still trying," the boy replied. Elon smiled. It was the most honest thing he'd heard all week. Over the weekend, an anonymous Tesla employee leaked an internal email suggesting Elon was detached and erratic. It went viral. Elon didn't deny it. He tweeted, "Maybe I am. But detachment built SpaceX. And a little madness built Tesla." The tweet racked up 2 million likes. But likes didn't fix broken prototypes. And madness doesn't pay dividends. Monday came fast. At SpaceX HQ, the latest Starship booster test failed its static fire trial. The heat shield melted too quickly. Elon watched from the observation deck, arms folded, saying nothing. Engineers whispered behind him. "Should we rerun diagnostics?" someone asked. Elon nodded once. Then left. He walked out the side door and kept walking, past the solar panels, past the launch pad mock-ups, past everything. No phone. No notebook. Just the Pacific wind in his face. 10 minutes later, he sat down in the sand, staring at the water. It was still early. The beach was empty. That's when it hit him. This wasn't burnout. This was disconnection. He'd become the thing he always fought, a CEO trapped in meetings, divorced from making. He used to sleep on the factory floor. Now he barely knew who soldered the wires. Back then, building things was survival. Now it was theater. Carefully scripted launches. Polished announcements. Shareholder-friendly optimism. He had become a brand. Not a builder. That realization cracked something inside him. Not in a loud, dramatic way. But quietly. Like a fracture under pressure. He stood up, brushed off the sand, and made a decision. Not a big one. Not yet. Just one thing. He'd cancel his next public appearance. The climate summit in Norway. He'd send Eva Lynn, his new AI lead, instead. She'd earned it. And he needed space. Not outer space. Inner. On the drive back, he passed a billboard for a rival EV company. Innovation with purpose, it read. Elon scoffed. Purpose wasn't something you advertised. It was something you fought for, alone, when no one was watching. At a red light, he checked his rearview mirror. His own eyes stared back. Tired. But not done. Not yet. Maybe the world was slipping. Or maybe he was. But either way, he wasn't going to let it end like this. Before the billions and the boardrooms, before the rockets and the ridicule, before the name Musk echoed through every corner of Silicon Valley, there was a boy alone in a basement in Pretoria, South Africa, teaching himself how to code on a beige PC that barely worked. He was thin, awkward, and soft-spoken, with a voice that always seemed to trail off at the end of his sentences. His classmates hated him. They didn't understand why he couldn't stop talking about electric motors or space colonies. They called him names. They shoved him down staircases. Once, a group of older boys beat him so badly he blacked out, woke up in the hospital with a swollen face and cracked ribs. His father came to visit that night. Elon Musk was cold, precise, and merciless in his disapproval. He didn't offer sympathy. He didn't ask if Elon was okay. He asked why he couldn't just act normal. Elon never answered. He just stared at the ceiling, trying to count the tiles and make the pane feel small. In his mind, he wasn't in that room. He was on Mars. He was somewhere else. Somewhere better. The house he grew up in was beautiful on the outside and brutal on the inside. His parents had divorced when he was young. His mother, May, was a model and dietitian who tried to protect her children as best she could, but Errol's shadow loomed long. Elon once said in an interview that his father was a terrible human being. People assumed he was exaggerating. He wasn't. Errol was brilliant, but cruel. He could make you feel like the smallest person in the room, and then ask you to pass the salt without blinking. Elon learned early that intelligence wasn't kindness. That genius could be a weapon. It shaped him. At school, he didn't have friends. Not really. He had books. He read for hours every day, anything he could get his hands on, encyclopedias, science fiction, programming manuals, engineering guides. By 12, he'd sold his first video game, a simple space shooter called Blaster, for $500. It felt like a miracle. He printed out the check, framed it, and hid it in a drawer. He didn't want his father to find it. The money wasn't the point. The point was proving he could make something real. Something from nothing. His younger brother, Kimball, was the only one who understood. They would whisper ideas to each other late at night. Business schemes. Inventions. Elon would sketch rocket parts on napkins. Kimball would suggest how to sell them. They were a team, in secret, in survival. As teenagers, they plotted their escape. Canada was the goal. Their mother had Canadian citizenship, which gave them a path out. Elon left first. Alone. 19 years old. $2,000 in his pocket. He arrived in Ontario with a duffel bag and an address for a cousin he barely knew. The first few weeks were brutal. He did odd jobs, cleaned out boiler rooms, shoveled dirt, worked on a farm. It was humbling, but it was freedom. No more fists in the hallway. No more cold stares across the dinner table. He worked his way into Queen's University. Then the University of Pennsylvania. He studied physics and economics and lived like a monk, sleeping on the floor of his dorm room, showering at the gym, putting every cent into ideas. He wasn't chasing money. He was chasing escape velocity. In college, he started talking about 3 industries that he believed would change the world: the internet, sustainable energy, and space travel. He said them like commandments. Like prophecy. People laughed. But then came Zip 2. A digital city guide, crude but effective. He and Kimball built it in a shoebox apartment, surviving on ramen and soda. They lived off hope and a 5 megabytes modem. When they sold it, Elon made his first $20 million. He used that money to start X.com, an online banking service. People told him he was insane. Who would trust a bank with no building? But he kept going. He slept in the office. Showered at the YMCA. He was relentless. It merged with Confinity. Became PayPal. The board didn't trust him. Thought he was too intense. They ousted him during a vacation. That betrayal stuck. It burrowed in deep. But the sale to eBay brought him his first fortune, roughly $180 million. He had a choice: retire. Buy an island. Disappear. Instead, he started Tesla. And SpaceX. At the same time. Everyone said it was financial suicide. But he couldn't stop. Because he remembered the basement. He remembered the bullies. He remembered his father saying he would never be anything but a liability. He remembered the feeling of being a boy so desperate to matter that he talked about Mars just to escape Earth. He poured $100 million into SpaceX and nearly lost it all. The first 3 rocket launches failed. The company was weeks away from bankruptcy. Tesla faced lawsuits, skepticism, and repeated near-death experiences. But Elon kept going. Not because he was fearless, but because he was terrified of being irrelevant. That fear, of becoming small again, fueled him. In 2008, everything turned. NASA awarded SpaceX a major contract. Tesla finally started delivering cars. Elon cried during interviews. Not from victory, but from exhaustion. He had risked everything. And somehow, it had worked. For the next decade, he ascended. Rockets relanded. Teslas multiplied. Solar panels, battery walls, Neuralink, Hyperloop. He became part visionary, part meme. The man who trolled short sellers and named his child after a math equation. But he never stopped moving. Because stopping meant thinking. And thinking meant feeling. And deep down, there were things he didn't want to feel. Like how many birthdays he'd missed. How many friendships he'd sacrificed. How many times he had chosen work over love. His relationship with his children was loving but distant. He tried. But he was always working. Grimes brought color into his life, but even she said he was like a feral genius. He wasn't built for peace. He thrived in friction. He didn't know how to rest. His teams admired and feared him. Some called him a genius. Others called him a tyrant. Both were probably right. He demanded the impossible because he believed the world needed it. But in recent years, something shifted. The spark that once lit up his eyes started to flicker. Not because he didn't believe, but because the weight of expectation had grown unbearable. Every success was followed by a louder question, what's next? And Elon didn't always have the answer. He once told a friend, in a rare moment of vulnerability, people think I'm confident. But I wake up every day wondering if today's the day it all collapses. The friend didn't know what to say. So he just nodded. Because what do you say to a man who built the future but forgot how to live in the present? The truth is, Elon never really left that basement. He just built bigger ones. With glass walls and launch pads. He was still that boy, building because it was the only way to make the noise stop. But now, the noise was louder than ever. The headlines, the critics, the pressure. And for the first time in years, he wasn't sure if building would be enough. By the time PayPal sold to eBay for $1.5 billion in 2002, Elon Musk had already been ousted as CEO. It happened quietly while he was on a flight to Australia, a betrayal orchestrated by colleagues who believed he was too intense, too rigid, too chaotic in his vision of online banking. When he landed, the title was gone, the reins passed to someone else. But the money wasn't. Elon walked away with roughly $180 million, give or take after taxes and dilution. He could have walked off into the sunset. He could have retired at 31. Bought property, started a family, become one of those quiet billionaires with art collections and silence. But Elon didn't believe in sunsets. He believed in engines. He believed in disruption. The moment the PayPal deal closed, he made 3 decisions that would define everything that came after. First, he would build a company that got humanity off Earth. Second, he would make sustainable energy mainstream. Third, he would revolutionize transportation on Earth and beyond. It wasn't a business plan. It was a manifesto. He wrote it down on a whiteboard in his rented Los Angeles office. No logos. No mission statements. Just 3 bullet points and a lot of fire. He poured $100 million into a new aerospace startup called Space Exploration Technologies, SpaceX. Another $70 million into a struggling electric car project he renamed Tesla. And $10 million into a solar energy venture that would become Solar City. Every financial advisor he spoke to warned him against it. "You're putting all your eggs in 3 moonshots," one said. "No hedge. No safety." Elon didn't care. "If I lose it all," he said, "at least I'll know I tried to do something that matters." He started with SpaceX. It was absurd on its face, a private company building rockets, competing with NASA. Everyone laughed. Especially after the first Falcon 1 launch in 2006 exploded. Then the second in 2007. Then the third in 2008. Each failure chipped away at investor trust. Engineers quit. Morale plummeted. The press had a field day. Musk SpaceX, 3 strikes and counting. What they didn't know was that after that third failure, Elon had enough money left for just one more launch. One last shot. If it failed, SpaceX would fold. Tesla was no better. The Roadster, their first car, was behind schedule, plagued with technical problems, and hemorrhaging money. Elon was forced to step in as CEO after a brutal internal power struggle. He fired friends. He alienated partners. He micromanaged everything, from the shape of the side mirrors to the software interface. Employees said he was impossible, demanding 20-hour days, calling in the middle of the night, rewriting code at 3 a.m. But he wasn't doing it to be cruel. He was doing it because he was terrified. Every day was a cliff edge. In public, he smiled. In private, he cried in the factory. He begged investors to keep funding. He maxed out his credit cards. He took personal loans to pay staff. Christmas 2008 came with no cheer. He told a friend, "This is the closest I've ever been to a nervous breakdown." That friend didn't doubt it. Elon looked like a man drowning in slow motion. And then, miraculously, it turned. On September 28, 2008, the 4th SpaceX launch succeeded. Falcon 1 reached orbit. The first privately funded liquid-fueled rocket to do so. A week later, NASA awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to resupply the International Space Station. The money saved the company. At Tesla, a similar miracle occurred. Right before they hit the wall, Daimler invested $50 million. The check cleared just in time to meet payroll. Tesla lived. Barely. Elon later said, "We were hanging on by a thread. A gossamer thread. But that thread held. And it became a wire. And the wire became a bridge. And on that bridge, Elon marched forward. He was no longer a dreamer with PowerPoint slides. He was a survivor. A disruptor with scars. People started paying attention. Tesla launched the Model S in 2012, a sleek, all-electric luxury sedan with speed, style, and range. Critics said it couldn't be done. Elon did it anyway. He demanded vertical integration. Built their own charging network. Designed custom software. Everything was different. Everything was under his control. The car won Motor Trend's Car of the Year. Suddenly, Tesla wasn't a joke. It was a revolution. SpaceX followed with the Falcon 9, reusable boosters, and commercial satellite contracts. NASA astronauts trained in SpaceX simulators. People started whispering that maybe, just maybe, he could get us to Mars. Through it all, Elon refused to slow down. He pushed harder. Opened the Gigafactory. Bought Solar City. Launched the Boring Company. Hinted at Neuralink, an interface between the brain and AI. His ambition was limitless, his drive insatiable. But so was the pressure. Every win raised the stakes. Every success tightened the noose. He was now the face of too much. The world looked to him for answers. And he wasn't always sure he had them. He started tweeting late at night. Sometimes wild things. Stock-moving things. He smoked pot on Joe Rogan's podcast. The SEC sued him. Investors panicked. His board issued warnings. He fought back. Said the system was rigged. That short sellers were parasites. That no one understood how hard this was. And he was right. No one did. Because he never showed the cracks. Even when he was unraveling inside. Even when his relationship with Grimes was strained, even when he was isolated from old friends, even when his own employees feared his mood swings, he kept building. Because stopping meant admitting it could all fall apart. In an unguarded moment, he once told a journalist, "It's like eating glass and staring into the abyss." The journalist laughed. Elon didn't. He wasn't being metaphorical. He was describing Tuesday. But people kept investing. Kept believing. Because behind the chaos was genius. Behind the noise was a mind that connected systems the way others connected dots. Elon saw the world differently. And he made the world move to his vision. That made him powerful. And alone. Power isolates. His brother Kimball said, "Elon's not just playing a different game. He built the board." And maybe that was the problem. Because when you build the board, there's no one left to tell you when the pieces are breaking. By 2020, he was the richest man in the world. On paper. But paper doesn't measure peace. Paper doesn't measure exhaustion. The pandemic had forced the world to pause. But Elon didn't. He reopened factories against orders. Fought with local governments. Called the virus overblown. People criticized him. Called him reckless. He doubled down. Posted memes. Ranted. Then launched rockets. Then dropped beats as a DJ. Then announced a plan to colonize Mars. His fans cheered. His critics cringed. But no one could ignore him. And maybe that was the goal. To stay in motion. To stay ahead of the fear. Because deep down, the boy in the basement still lived inside him. And that boy was scared of being forgotten. That boy didn't care about money or fame. He cared about proving that pain could be turned into purpose. That rejection could be turned into rocket fuel. That silence could be broken by sound. And so he kept going. Even as the machine grew too big. Even as the costs mounted. Even as his face became a brand and his voice a stock ticker. He kept going. Because to stop now would be to admit it might all come crashing down. And Elon Musk didn't know how to crash. Not quietly. Not yet. By 2022, Elon Musk's world was no longer just about rockets and electric cars, it was a fragile empire balancing on the edge of chaos. The narrative that once celebrated his relentless drive began to crack. Headlines shifted from Elon Musk, the visionary who changed everything, to Tesla stagnates, SpaceX pulls back, is Musk overloaded? The question hanging in the air was one nobody wanted to voice aloud, was everything slipping out of his hands? It was hard to believe. For over a decade, Elon had been the unstoppable force, tearing through industries like a hurricane. Tesla's stock had soared, SpaceX had revolutionized spaceflight, and Neuralink promised to rewrite the human future. But the signs of strain were undeniable. Tesla's sales plateaued. The company faced increasing competition from legacy automakers who had finally woken up to electric vehicles. Meanwhile, quality control issues started piling up, reports of malfunctioning autopilots, unexpected fires, and delayed deliveries shook consumer confidence. At SpaceX, the once spectacular momentum slowed. The ambitious Starship program, intended to be the flagship for Mars colonization, encountered engineering setbacks and regulatory hurdles. Launch delays stretched for months, and the expected contracts from NASA and commercial clients seemed less certain. Internally, employees whispered about missed deadlines and growing burnout. Elon's personal life mirrored this turbulence. His relationship with Grimes, already complex and under media scrutiny, frayed further. Public appearances became sporadic, tweets erratic, at times controversial. Investors grew nervous as Tesla's stock wavered, dipping from record highs to volatile swings. Analysts questioned whether Elon could juggle all the balls in the air or if he was spreading himself too thin. Elon himself admitted to a close friend that managing Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, the Boring Company, and Twitter, the latest acquisition, was like spinning plates on a tightrope. The man who once claimed to sleep just a few hours a night was now confessing exhaustion. But exhaustion was just the surface. The deeper issue was a growing disconnect between vision and execution. The speed that once dazzled was now causing cracks. The culture at Tesla shifted. Where once innovation thrived, reports of a toxic work environment increased. Turnover rose, and former executives leaked concerns about micromanagement, unpredictable leadership, and unrealistic expectations. Elon's leadership style, once admired as fearless and bold, was now being scrutinized for volatility and impulsiveness. Twitter, the acquisition that stunned the tech world, only intensified the strain. Elon envisioned Twitter as a platform for free speech and innovation. Instead, it became a lightning rod for controversy. User numbers declined amid moderation struggles and advertiser pullouts. Staff cuts sparked internal dissent. The public saw a leader embroiled in battles on multiple fronts. Legal, regulatory, financial, and personal. The contrast was stark. On stage at events, he still projected charisma and brilliance. Offstage, the man behind the myth wrestled with the weight of unmet expectations. A longtime confidant noted, "He's always been driven by a fear of failure." But lately, that fear has started to look more like desperation. The media, once fascinated by his genius, began painting a different portrait, a man overwhelmed, a visionary overreaching beyond his limits. The relentless pace left little room for reflection or recovery. Those closest to Elon noticed a shift. The twinkle in his eye was fading. Conversations turned from bold plans to justifications and defensive remarks. Sleep deprivation turned into erratic behavior. Public outbursts, once rare, became common. Yet, despite mounting challenges, Elon refused to slow down. If anything, he doubled down. He announced new initiatives, Starship development accelerating, new Tesla models in the pipeline, Neuralink trials moving ahead. But skepticism grew louder. Some investors questioned whether Elon's grand ambitions were blinding him to operational realities. Wall Street's patience thinned. Employees whispered about a man haunted by the very success he'd built, trying to hold on to his empire as it threatened to crumble. The pressures of being the richest person in the world came with a steep price. Every tweet moved markets. Every misstep became a global headline. The world expected miracles, and Elon felt the crushing weight of expectation. One night, a close friend found Elon staring out the window of his mansion, exhausted and contemplative. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," he admitted. "It's like trying to hold back a tsunami with a broom." But quitting wasn't in his DNA. To walk away would mean admitting defeat. And for a man who had built his identity on winning, defeat was unthinkable. In this crucible of pressure, cracks appeared not just in his companies, but in Elon himself. The relentless push for progress collided with the limits of human endurance. His story was no longer just about success. It was about survival. And the world was watching to see if the boy from Pretoria could weather the storm he'd helped create or if the dream was finally slipping through his fingers. Those words, once a rallying cry, now echoed with bittersweet irony as Elon faced his toughest challenge yet, not just to change the world, but to save himself. When Elon Musk announced his acquisition of Twitter in early 2022, the tech world collectively held its breath. The deal, valued at $44 billion, was one of the most high-profile and controversial tech takeovers in recent history. To many, it was baffling. Why would a man with SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, and multiple other ventures suddenly throw himself into the chaos of a social media platform known for its toxicity and political warfare? Elon framed the acquisition as a mission to restore free speech and revitalize the platform as a space for open conversation and innovation. But the reality was far messier. From day one, Elon's management style clashed with Twitter's established culture. His rapid-fire decisions bewildered staff, and his direct involvement in moderation policy and content rules sparked outrage both inside the company and among users. The tone of Twitter shifted overnight. Elon fired top executives, including the CEO and CFO, replaced them with allies or interim leaders, and initiated massive layoffs that slashed the workforce by nearly half. The exodus of talent fueled fears of instability, and users began reporting glitches and censorship inconsistencies. Advertisers, who had already been wary of Twitter's controversial content, pulled back in droves, concerned about brand safety. Elon responded defiantly, calling critics woke mobsters and vowing to clean up the platform. But the battle spilled into public view as Elon took to tweeting from his personal account, often with provocative statements, insults, and cryptic hints about Twitter's future. His tweets swung markets, rattled shareholders, and sometimes contradicted his own executives. The media pounced. Headlines blasted Musk as reckless and impulsive, accusing him of turning Twitter into a chaotic free-for-all. A growing chorus of investors and analysts worried about the financial stability of both Twitter and Elon's other ventures. Meanwhile, regulatory scrutiny intensified. Governments in the US and abroad questioned whether Musk's Twitter ownership would affect election integrity, misinformation control, and user privacy. Lawsuits emerged, including one from the Securities and Exchange Commission accusing Musk of misleading investors with his tweets about taking Tesla private years earlier. The pressure mounted. Internally, employees faced burnout, fear, and confusion. The cultural rift between longtime Twitter staff and Elon's new team grew wider by the day. Former employees leaked internal memos revealing distrust and dissatisfaction with leadership's direction. One engineer described the environment as living in a pressure cooker, where everything changes every hour. Despite the chaos, Elon remained publicly defiant, insisting Twitter would be better and more profitable under his leadership. He teased ambitious new features, from paid verification badges to blockchain-based content monetization. But progress was slow and erratic. The user base shrank as prominent voices left or were banned. Monetization efforts floundered amid advertiser boycotts. Elon's personal brand took a beating. Once admired for his genius and vision, he was increasingly portrayed as a reckless billionaire throwing his weight around without a clear plan. Parodies, memes, and critical think pieces flooded social media. The narrative shifted to Elon's Twitter meltdown, and the question, is he losing his touch? For Elon, the battle wasn't just about Twitter. It was a fight for his legacy and sanity. He often spoke privately about the loneliness of being at the top, the weight of public scrutiny, and the pressure to succeed on every front. Friends worried about his mental health. Some suggested he take a step back. But Elon saw the storm as fuel. He doubled down on work, tweeting at odd hours, launching surprise announcements, and pushing his teams harder than ever. To his supporters, he was a fearless leader challenging the status quo. To his critics, he was a symbol of tech arrogance and hubris. The truth, as always, was complicated. The very traits that had propelled Elon to the summit. The risk-taking, relentless energy, and refusal to accept limits, were now exposing him to risks he couldn't easily control. Twitter, once a side project, had become a lightning rod threatening to consume him. The world watched, fascinated and divided. As one analyst put it, Musk's Twitter experiment is like watching a rocket launch in slow motion, exciting, unpredictable, and possibly catastrophic. Meanwhile, back at Tesla and SpaceX, the ripple effects of Twitter's turmoil were felt. Investors worried about distractions and management bandwidth. Tesla's stock wavered as Elon's tweets about production targets and company plans grew more erratic. SpaceX delayed key Starship launches, citing regulatory issues partly tied to Musk's increased public controversies. The once seamless narrative of Elon as the visionary leader began to fragment. Behind the scenes, advisors urged caution, lawyers warned of legal risks, and board members debated governance reforms. Elon resisted. To him, the fight was existential. He wasn't just saving Twitter. He was saving himself, from complacency, criticism, and the creeping shadow of failure. But the costs were mounting. By late 2023, Twitter's financial health was precarious, Tesla's growth had slowed, and SpaceX faced technical and political obstacles. Elon's personal life, too, was under strain. His relationships were distant, his public image polarizing. Yet, in typical fashion, he pressed forward. Planning a new launch, teasing new Tesla models, hinting at Neuralink breakthroughs. The man who had once claimed he works 120 hours a week was now visibly weary but undeterred. The question wasn't just whether Elon Musk could manage Twitter. It was whether he could manage himself. And whether his empire, built on audacity and speed, could survive the reckoning it was facing. Elon Musk had always been defined by extremes, brilliant and flawed, driven and isolated, visionary and volatile. In Twitter, those extremes collided in real time. The dream of transforming social media collided with the messy reality of human nature, business pressures, and political turmoil. What would come next was uncertain. But one thing was clear, Elon's story was far from over. The world was watching to see if the boy who reached for the stars could still land safely on Earth. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? These words echoed again, both a challenge and a hope, as Elon faced the toughest chapter yet. By 2024, the pressure on Elon Musk was becoming unbearable, a convergence of personal heartbreak and professional upheaval that threatened to undo the man who had seemed invincible. After years of relentless drive, sleepless nights, and towering ambitions, cracks were not just visible in his companies but deeply etched in his private life. Elon's relationship with Grimes, the enigmatic musician and mother of two of his children, was strained. Their once high-profile romance, often showcased in public appearances and social media posts, had slowly faded into silence punctuated by cryptic messages and rumors. Friends described Elon as increasingly distant, emotionally unavailable, locked inside his own storm of worries and exhaustion. His work became his refuge but also his prison. At Tesla, the company that had once been the crown jewel of his empire, the honeymoon was over. The Model 3 and Model Y had dominated sales, but newer models faced delays and quality issues. Autopilot incidents made headlines, raising safety concerns that regulators were now investigating with greater scrutiny. Investors who had once overlooked minor hiccups grew restless. They questioned whether Tesla could maintain its position as the undisputed leader in electric vehicles. Meanwhile, the competition was catching up. Ford, General Motors, and new startups were releasing electric vehicles with comparable range and features. Tesla's advantage was no longer guaranteed. SpaceX, too, faced growing pains. The ambitious Starship program, designed to make Mars colonization feasible, was mired in technical problems and regulatory roadblocks. Launch failures, explosions, and delays became routine. NASA's timeline for moon missions slipped, and private customers grew wary. Behind the scenes, employees complained about burnout and lack of direction. Elon's constant presence was both a blessing and a curse. His genius inspired teams, but his high expectations and volatile moods strained morale. At Neuralink, the futuristic brain-machine interface project, progress was slow and controversial. Ethical concerns, clinical trial delays, and skepticism from the medical community cast doubt on the feasibility of commercial applications anytime soon. Investors questioned the viability of yet another moonshot. Adding to the turmoil was Elon's acquisition and management of Twitter, which consumed enormous amounts of his time and attention. The social media platform had become a public relations disaster, draining resources and generating endless controversy. As advertisers left and user engagement faltered, Twitter's financial outlook became bleak. The strain showed on Elon's public image, his once celebrated tweets now seen as reckless or erratic. At home, Elon grappled with fatherhood and privacy. His children were growing up under intense media scrutiny, and custody arrangements became complicated and deeply personal. The demands of parenting collided with the demands of running multiple billion-dollar companies. Friends and family expressed concern about his well-being. Some suggested therapy or a break, but Elon dismissed such ideas as distractions from his mission. "There's no time to rest," he often said. "The future depends on what we do now." Yet, the toll was undeniable. Insiders reported episodes of exhaustion, moments when Elon's usual energy seemed to drain away, replaced by frustration and doubt. His tweets sometimes revealed impatience or irritation, alienating longtime supporters. Public appearances grew rarer, and when he did appear, the sparkle in his eyes was dimmer. Business leaders and analysts debated whether Elon's relentless pace was sustainable. Some called it a heroic marathon, others warned it was a recipe for burnout and collapse. For Elon himself, the stakes felt existential. This was no longer about innovation or disruption. It was about survival, personal and professional. A close confidant revealed, "He's always been driven by a need to prove himself, to outrun failure." But now the shadow of what could go wrong looms larger. Despite mounting pressures, Elon pushed forward with ambitious plans. He announced new Tesla models, including a promised affordable electric car aimed at the mass market. SpaceX accelerated development of Starship, vowing to launch humans to Mars within the decade. Neuralink unveiled new prototypes for brain implants. Twitter rolled out subscription features and revamped policies aimed at stemming user losses. Each announcement was met with a mix of excitement and skepticism. The public remained fascinated by Elon's vision but increasingly concerned about his ability to execute. The paradox was clear: the man who had changed the world risked being undone by the very intensity that had fueled his rise. In moments of rare vulnerability, Elon admitted to friends that the burden was heavy. "Sometimes it feels like I'm trying to hold the universe together," he said. "And maybe I'm losing grip." Yet quitting was never an option. His identity was intertwined with the mission. To step back would be to admit defeat, and that was unthinkable. This chapter of Elon Musk's life was a crucible, testing the limits of endurance, ambition, and humanity. It raised profound questions: how much can one person carry? Can genius survive without peace? And what happens when a dream becomes too big to hold? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? These words echoed through the turmoil, a beacon in the storm as Elon faced the greatest test of his life. By mid-2024, Elon Musk found himself navigating a maze of setbacks that no amount of visionary thinking seemed able to overcome. His ventures, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and Twitter, each faced their own crises, converging into a perfect storm that tested his resilience and forced him to confront hard truths about himself and his empire. Tesla, once the crown jewel of electric vehicles, stumbled in ways that shook the confidence of investors and customers alike. Production delays plagued the rollout of the long-awaited Cybertruck, a model Elon had touted as a game-changer. The vehicle's futuristic design and promised capabilities had captured imaginations, but manufacturing issues pushed back deliveries by months. Quality control became a public relations nightmare, with reports of defective parts and software glitches emerging from early buyers. Safety regulators opened investigations into Tesla's autopilot system, responding to an uptick in accidents that raised questions about the reliability of the much-vaunted technology. The pressure mounted as competitors like Ford and Rivian gained market share, releasing electric trucks that were reliable and well-reviewed. Tesla's once unassailable lead was no longer guaranteed. At SpaceX, the Starship program, which Elon had dreamed would pioneer humanity's journey to Mars, faced its toughest challenge yet. Multiple high-profile test launches ended in dramatic explosions. While setbacks were expected in rocket development, the repeated failures were embarrassing and costly. NASA pushed back on timelines for lunar missions that relied on Starship's success, and commercial contracts became more cautious. Regulatory bodies grew more stringent, demanding detailed safety assessments that slowed progress. Internally, morale dipped. Engineers and technicians, who had once thrived under Elon's relentless pace, began questioning whether the ambitious goals were achievable on the proposed schedule. Neuralink, the company promising to merge human brains with AI, faced ethical scrutiny and technical roadblocks. Clinical trials were delayed as regulators demanded rigorous proof of safety and efficacy. Skepticism grew in the medical community, and the hype that once surrounded Neuralink gave way to cautious appraisal. Investors became more circumspect, wary of the high risks involved. Twitter, the most controversial part of Elon's portfolio, was still mired in chaos. User numbers continued to decline as content moderation policies oscillated unpredictably. Advertisers, spooked by brand safety concerns, continued to pull back, straining the company's revenue. The platform struggled to innovate meaningfully, losing ground to competitors like TikTok and Instagram. The promise of Twitter as a revitalized bastion of free speech now seemed distant. In the midst of these professional storms, Elon's personal life was fraying. Custody disputes and public spats with former partners made headlines. The pressure to maintain a private life became impossible. The constant media glare exacerbated feelings of isolation and stress. Friends who had once marveled at Elon's boundless energy noted a man growing increasingly withdrawn and weary. The unrelenting schedule left little room for rest or reflection. The relentless cycle of setbacks forced Elon to confront uncomfortable truths. He was not infallible. His vision, while grand, was vulnerable to real-world challenges. The myth of the unstoppable innovator clashed with the reality of technical failures, regulatory barriers, and human limits. Yet, rather than retreat, Elon doubled down on transparency about the struggles. In rare interviews and social media posts, he acknowledged the difficulties, calling the period the hardest of my life. He framed setbacks as part of the journey, a necessary price for breakthroughs. Yet behind the bravado was a man grappling with doubt. The balance between optimism and realism became harder to maintain. Advisors urged caution, suggesting that Elon focus on stabilizing existing ventures rather than chasing new moonshots. Some board members worried about the concentration of decision-making power in Elon's hands. Tensions rose internally, with executives pushing for more structured governance. Elon, however, resisted attempts to curtail his control, fearing that bureaucracy would stifle innovation. This tension between control and collaboration highlighted a core challenge: Elon's leadership style, once an asset, was now a liability. The qualities that made him a visionary, the boldness, the speed, the refusal to accept limits, were now testing the patience of those around him. The lessons were hard-earned. Failure was no longer a distant possibility but a tangible reality demanding humility and adaptation. Yet, even as he faced these hard truths, Elon remained committed to his mission. He launched initiatives to address Tesla's quality issues, investing heavily in production upgrades and customer service. At SpaceX, new safety protocols and a revised testing approach were implemented, aimed at reducing launch failures. Neuralink refocused on incremental scientific advances rather than grand promises. Twitter began experimenting with new revenue models and content strategies, trying to regain user trust. These efforts reflected a growing maturity, a recognition that innovation required not just vision but resilience, patience, and pragmatism. Elon's story was evolving from one of unbridled ambition to one of endurance and adaptation. Yet the road ahead remained uncertain. The setbacks were stark reminders that even the greatest dreams face real-world obstacles. And the question lingered: could Elon Musk transform these challenges into a new chapter of success? Or would the weight of accumulated failures finally overwhelm the man who had dared to reach for the stars? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? These words, once a simple call to action, now echoed as a deeper question for Elon and everyone watching his extraordinary journey. As 2024 wore on, the mounting setbacks across Elon Musk's empire gave rise to a new and more insidious challenge: the battle for control. What had once been a near unquestioned leadership had become contested territory, both behind closed doors in corporate boardrooms and under the unforgiving glare of the public spotlight. At Tesla, the board of directors, long deferential to Elon's vision, began to voice unease. The company's stock price, which had soared for years on the promise of groundbreaking innovation, started to wobble. Production delays on the Cybertruck and Model S Plaid, combined with growing safety concerns over autopilot, rattled investors. Analysts publicly questioned whether Tesla's culture of "move fast and break things" was sustainable when lives were at stake. Some board members quietly pushed for governance reforms, calls for greater oversight and limits on Elon's unilateral decision-making. These voices, while measured, sent ripples through the executive ranks. Elon, famously averse to bureaucracy, bristled at what he saw as interference. The tension escalated as the board sought more transparency on production issues and risk management. Musk responded with his trademark bluntness, publicly dismissing critics as short sellers and media hysteria. This public sparring only fueled market volatility and intensified scrutiny. Meanwhile, SpaceX faced its own internal power dynamics. The ambitious Starship program was hemorrhaging money, and a series of failed test flights sparked frustration among investors and partners like NASA. Executives pushed for a strategic reassessment to focus on sustainable progress, but Elon insisted on maintaining the aggressive timeline. Some senior engineers and managers, exhausted by the relentless pace and unpredictable leadership, quietly began to question whether Elon's approach was viable. Confidential reports described a growing divide between Elon and his senior team, his charisma and vision inspiring but his demands and communication style straining relations. Neuralink's board also grew increasingly concerned. The project's ethical questions and technical hurdles led to calls for more cautious and transparent governance. Investors were wary of potential backlash from regulators and the public, particularly as clinical trials faced delays. In this environment, Elon's ownership and control of Twitter added another layer of complexity. Twitter was hemorrhaging users and advertisers, and the company was burning cash at an alarming rate. The public controversies and policy flip-flops reflected a leadership style that was increasingly seen as erratic. At shareholder meetings, activists demanded changes. Lawsuits and regulatory investigations loomed. Elon's heavy personal involvement, combined with Twitter's troubled finances, alarmed investors across his portfolio. The convergence of these pressures sparked rumors of possible board challenges and calls for Elon to step back from day-to-day operations in one or more companies. Some speculated that the mythic figure who had built an empire might be facing the limits of his capacity. The media frenzy intensified. Headlines speculated on Elon's potential ouster or forced retreats. Pundits debated whether the Musk magic had run out or if he could reinvent himself under pressure. Social media buzzed with memes and debates: was Elon a visionary or a cautionary tale? Elon himself seemed undeterred publicly. He doubled down on ambitious announcements, tweeted provocatively, and pushed back against critics with characteristic defiance. Yet those close to him revealed a man grappling with isolation and the enormity of his responsibilities. Behind the bravado, Elon confided moments of doubt and exhaustion. The paradox was stark: the same boldness and independence that had driven his success were now isolating him from crucial support. The battle for control was not just a corporate drama but a personal one. It highlighted the tension between visionary leadership and the realities of governance, accountability, and collaboration. Elon's challenge was to balance his extraordinary ambition with the structures needed to sustain long-term success. As boardrooms deliberated and shareholders pressed for answers, Elon faced a choice: to adapt and share control or to risk losing everything he had built. The stakes were immense. Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and Twitter were not just companies, they were symbols of a future Elon had promised, a future of clean energy, space colonization, brain-computer interfaces, and open communication. Losing control could mean losing the ability to shape that future. Yet clinging too tightly risked alienating allies and fueling the very chaos he feared. The coming months would test Elon's ability to navigate these treacherous waters. Would he emerge stronger, forging new partnerships and governance models? Or would the weight of public pressure and internal dissent force him into retreat? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? These words resonated as a challenge, not just to Elon, but to everyone watching this unfolding saga. In the end, leadership is not just about vision, it's about resilience, humility, and the courage to change course when necessary. Elon Musk stood at a crossroads. The next move could define his legacy forever. By late 2024, the pressures that had been mounting for months finally converged into a breaking point for Elon Musk. The combination of public fallout, corporate turmoil, and personal crisis reached a crescendo, shaking the foundations of his empire and forcing him to confront the consequences of his relentless drive. Tesla's stock price plunged amid mounting production delays and safety investigations. The Cybertruck, once hailed as revolutionary, had become a symbol of unfulfilled promises and engineering headaches. Public confidence in Tesla's leadership wavered, and rival companies capitalized on the opportunity, capturing market share with more reliable and affordable electric vehicles. The media narrative shifted sharply. Headlines questioned Elon's ability to deliver on his grand visions, painting a picture of a leader stretched too thin and companies slipping out of control. Social media buzzed with criticism and speculation about Tesla's future. Meanwhile, SpaceX's Starship program suffered another high-profile failure, a fiery explosion during a test flight that was broadcast live and dissected endlessly online. The failure not only embarrassed SpaceX but also cast doubt on the feasibility of Elon's ambitious Mars colonization timeline. Investors grew skittish, and NASA expressed concerns about depending on Starship for upcoming lunar missions. The blow to SpaceX's reputation was significant, and the company faced intense internal pressure to recalibrate. Neuralink's progress remained slow, and ethical controversies mounted. Public skepticism about brain-machine interfaces intensified as critics questioned the company's transparency and the safety of experimental implants. Clinical trials faced delays, and regulatory hurdles increased, raising doubts about Neuralink's near-term prospects. Twitter, already struggling with a shrinking user base and advertiser exodus, found itself engulfed in controversy after Elon posted a series of provocative and polarizing tweets. The content sparked backlash from users, advertisers, and regulators alike. Twitter's brand was tarnished, and the platform's financial stability became increasingly precarious. These professional crises unfolded alongside Elon's personal turmoil. Custody battles and highly publicized disputes with former partners further exposed his private struggles. The intense media scrutiny took a toll on Elon's mental health and well-being. Friends and close associates described a man increasingly isolated, battling exhaustion, self-doubt, and the weight of expectations. Elon's public appearances grew infrequent and guarded. When he did speak, his usual confidence was tinged with defensiveness and frustration. The breaking point was marked by a series of public missteps. Tweets that confused or angered followers, off-the-cuff remarks during interviews that fueled speculation about his state of mind. The carefully cultivated image of the infallible innovator cracked, revealing vulnerability and imperfection. At a critical shareholder meeting, tensions boiled over. Investors demanded answers and accountability. Questions about governance, risk management, and future strategy dominated the agenda. Elon, known for his combative style, faced sharp criticism and calls for changes in leadership structure. The room's mood was tense, and the outcome uncertain. Behind closed doors, the mood was even darker. Senior executives debated whether Elon's leadership was sustainable in its current form. Some argued that a transition was necessary to stabilize the companies and restore confidence. Others feared that losing Elon's visionary drive would doom the very projects that had captivated the world. The personal and professional crises were inextricably linked. Elon's identity was wrapped up in his work, and his work was unraveling under unprecedented pressure. The breaking point was not just about companies or stock prices, it was a reckoning with the limits of ambition and the human cost of greatness. Yet, even in this darkest hour, Elon's resilience shone through. He acknowledged the challenges publicly, expressing determination to learn and adapt. He initiated internal reviews and brought in new leadership to strengthen governance. Efforts were made to rebuild trust with investors, employees, and the public. The road to recovery would be long and uncertain, but Elon refused to give up on his mission. The breaking point was also a moment of reflection and transformation. Elon confronted difficult questions about balance, control, and the meaning of success. Could he maintain the frenetic pace without sacrificing his health and relationships? Could he lead a sprawling empire without losing the personal touch that inspired millions? These questions were not easy to answer. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? These words, once a rallying cry for innovation, now carried the weight of survival. Elon Musk's breaking point was a turning point, an opportunity to rebuild, redefine, and rise again. The next chapter in his story would be shaped by how he faced this crucible, and whether he could transform crisis into comeback. After the breaking point that shook Elon Musk's empire, the months that followed marked a critical phase in his journey, one defined by reflection, recalibration, and the painstaking work of rebuilding trust and vision. The raw wounds of public fallout and personal crisis had exposed vulnerabilities, but they also ignited a renewed determination within Elon to reclaim control and steer his companies back onto a path of innovation and stability. At Tesla, the first priority was damage control and regaining consumer confidence. Elon spearheaded a comprehensive overhaul of production processes, focusing on quality and reliability. The company invested heavily in upgrading manufacturing facilities, expanding automation, and tightening quality assurance protocols. Tesla's leadership acknowledged past mistakes openly, with Elon personally taking responsibility in interviews and public statements. He emphasized that learning from setbacks was essential to long-term success. The company rolled out software updates to improve autopilot's safety and transparency, responding to regulatory concerns with renewed cooperation. Marketing efforts shifted to highlight Tesla's commitment to customer experience and sustainability. The long-awaited Cybertruck finally began reaching customers, albeit later than planned. While the initial deliveries faced scrutiny, Tesla ensured rapid support and fixes for early issues. The company also launched new models that targeted a broader market, seeking to balance innovation with practicality. Investors gradually regained confidence as Tesla's stock stabilized and sales showed signs of recovery. SpaceX's comeback plan focused on restoring credibility and advancing its ambitious space missions without compromising safety. After the string of Starship failures, Elon authorized a revised testing protocol, prioritizing incremental improvements and rigorous analysis over aggressive timelines. The engineering teams embraced a culture shift toward caution balanced with innovation. SpaceX secured additional contracts with NASA and private clients, signaling trust in the company's renewed approach. Public communications highlighted the scientific breakthroughs and lessons learned from past setbacks. Elon also announced a new roadmap for Mars exploration, emphasizing sustainable progress and collaboration with international partners. Neuralink's revival centered on transparency and scientific rigor. The company paused high-profile announcements and instead focused on foundational research and careful clinical trials. Elon advocated for open dialogue with regulators, ethicists, and the medical community to build credibility. Investments were channeled into safety studies and incremental advances, tempering earlier hype. Neuralink began publishing peer-reviewed research, demonstrating a commitment to responsible innovation. Twitter's transformation was arguably the most challenging. Elon recognized that regaining user trust and advertiser confidence required fundamental changes. He appointed experienced executives to lead efforts in product development, content moderation, and revenue diversification. Policies were revised to balance free expression with user safety. New features aimed to enhance engagement and address competitor strengths. Elon moderated his public commentary on the platform, seeking to stabilize the company's image. Financial discipline was implemented to reduce burn rates. These efforts led to a gradual slowdown in user decline and modest improvements in advertiser relations. Beyond the companies themselves, Elon worked to rebuild relationships with investors, employees, and the public. He engaged more frequently and openly, hosting town halls, participating in industry conferences, and communicating progress honestly. His tone shifted from defiance to humility, acknowledging past errors while affirming commitment to the future. Internally, Elon fostered a culture that valued collaboration and accountability. He delegated more operational responsibilities to trusted leaders, recognizing the need to balance visionary guidance with effective management. This leadership evolution was critical to sustaining momentum. The comeback plan was not just about fixing problems but also about renewing the core vision that had propelled Elon's rise. He reaffirmed his belief in humanity's potential, to transition to sustainable energy, explore space, and augment human capabilities. These goals, while ambitious, were now tempered with pragmatism and a clearer understanding of the challenges involved. The narrative around Elon Musk began to shift. No longer seen as an infallible genius racing ahead recklessly, he was now viewed as a leader grappling with complexity and learning from failure. This more nuanced image resonated with many who admired not just success but resilience. Public sentiment gradually warmed as Elon's companies demonstrated steady progress and transparency. Yet, the journey was far from over. The stakes remained high, and the margin for error was thin. Elon's comeback was a test of endurance, adaptability, and vision. Qualities that had defined his career but were now being forged anew in the crucible of hardship. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? These words took on fresh meaning as Elon Musk sought to rebuild not only his empire but also his legacy. The next chapters would reveal whether this comeback was the start of a sustained renaissance or merely a brief respite before new challenges emerged. The stakes could not be higher, but for Elon Musk, the future was still unwritten. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Despite the turbulence that had rocked his companies, Elon Musk's drive to innovate remained undiminished. The comeback phase was not just about damage control but also about reigniting the spark of bold ideas that had first propelled him into the spotlight. As 2025 dawned, Elon launched a series of ambitious new projects across Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and Twitter, signaling that even under intense pressure, his appetite for disruption was alive and well. Tesla unveiled its vision for the next generation of electric vehicles, focusing on affordability and sustainability. The company introduced a compact, budget-friendly EV designed for mass adoption, aiming to democratize clean transportation globally. This move addressed a glaring gap in Tesla's lineup, responding to competition from traditional automakers entering the EV market aggressively. At the same time, Tesla doubled down on battery innovation, unveiling advances in solid-state technology promising longer life, faster charging, and lower costs. These breakthroughs were hailed as potential game-changers, reigniting investor enthusiasm and public interest. The company also announced expansion plans for new gigafactories in emerging markets, emphasizing local production and supply chain resilience. SpaceX, recovering from its recent setbacks, pushed forward with a new focus on reusability and cost reduction. Elon revealed plans for a redesigned Starship iteration, incorporating lessons from past failures and new materials to enhance durability and safety. The company committed to more frequent, smaller-scale test launches to build incremental confidence rather than chasing grand spectacle. NASA and international space agencies expressed renewed interest in partnering with SpaceX for lunar and Mars missions, validating the company's strategic pivot. SpaceX also advanced its Starlink satellite constellation, aiming to deliver high-speed internet to remote regions worldwide. The Starlink project, though initially controversial, was gaining traction as a profitable and socially impactful venture. Neuralink surprised many by announcing a collaboration with leading neuroscience institutions to accelerate brain-computer interface research. This partnership brought fresh expertise and credibility, helping Neuralink address ethical concerns and regulatory challenges. Elon emphasized a cautious but hopeful approach, focusing on therapeutic applications for neurological disorders before pursuing enhancement technologies. Clinical trials entered new phases with promising preliminary results, marking a milestone in the company's long journey. Twitter underwent a dramatic transformation under new leadership, with Elon stepping back from daily management but remaining an influential advisor. The platform introduced features aimed at improving content quality, combating misinformation, and enhancing user experience. Monetization strategies diversified, including subscription models and creator incentives. These changes help stabilize user engagement and begin reversing advertiser losses. Elon's more restrained and strategic role in Twitter allowed him to focus energy on Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink without the distraction of daily social media battles. Across all ventures, Elon's leadership style evolved. He embraced a more collaborative approach, empowering teams while setting ambitious but realistic goals. He encouraged experimentation within controlled boundaries, fostering innovation without sacrificing discipline. The balance between vision and execution became a guiding principle. This phase of innovation under pressure was not without risks. Critics cautioned that Elon's tendency to promise moonshots could lead to overextension. Investors remained watchful for signs of slipping focus or new missteps. Yet the renewed progress and strategic clarity inspired cautious optimism. Elon himself acknowledged the challenges but conveyed confidence in the direction forward. Beyond the products and projects, Elon Musk's narrative shifted from reckless disruptor to adaptive innovator. His willingness to learn from failure and recalibrate strategies resonated with a broader audience. The comeback was becoming a story of resilience and growth, not just survival. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This call to action now reflected the essence of Elon's journey, relentless pursuit of progress, even in the face of adversity. As the world watched, the next phase of Elon Musk's story unfolded, one defined by bold moves, tempered ambition, and the relentless quest to shape the future. Despite the resurgence and renewed optimism surrounding Elon Musk's efforts to rebuild and innovate, shadows of doubt continued to loom large. No comeback of this magnitude could unfold without drawing renewed scrutiny and controversy. The intense spotlight on Elon and his ventures magnified every misstep, every controversy, and every legal challenge. These shadows tested not only the resilience of his companies but also the man himself. Tesla's recovery was met with skepticism by some industry analysts and competitors. While production and delivery numbers improved, critics argued that the company's quality control problems were far from resolved. Reports of malfunctioning batteries, software glitches, and customer service issues continued to surface. Consumer advocacy groups filed complaints, urging regulators to increase oversight. Tesla's autopilot feature, a cornerstone of Elon's vision for autonomous driving, came under particular fire. Several accidents allegedly linked to autopilot raised questions about its safety and the company's transparency. Investigations by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration intensified, with demands for detailed data and improved safeguards. The tension between innovation and regulation became a battleground where Tesla often found itself defending its technology and practices. SpaceX, despite technical progress, faced its own share of controversies. Environmental groups criticized the expansion of launch facilities, pointing to potential harm to local ecosystems. The rapid deployment of Starlink satellites sparked concerns among astronomers about light pollution and interference with celestial observations. Legal battles over spectrum rights and international regulatory approvals added complexity. The most high-profile legal challenge came from rival aerospace companies questioning the fairness of SpaceX's government contracts, leading to protracted litigation. Neuralink's path was perhaps the most fraught with ethical debates and regulatory hurdles. Critics expressed unease over the potential risks of brain-machine interfaces, raising fears about privacy, consent, and the long-term effects of neural implants. Advocacy groups called for moratoriums on certain types of research, sparking fierce debates within the scientific community. Regulatory agencies in multiple countries imposed stricter requirements, slowing down clinical trials and increasing costs. Neuralink's transparency efforts helped but could not fully quell public anxiety. Twitter remained a flashpoint of controversy. The platform's content policies, enforcement actions, and user management decisions drew fire from all sides of the political spectrum. Accusations of censorship, bias, and inconsistent moderation eroded public trust. Advertisers voiced concerns about brand safety, leading to boycotts and revenue losses. Lawsuits alleging misinformation and harmful content multiplied, creating a legal quagmire. Elon's personal role, though reduced, continued to attract media attention. His past tweets and public statements were scrutinized, with some critics accusing him of reckless behavior that endangered public discourse. The legal costs and reputational damage added pressure on Twitter's fragile turnaround. These ongoing controversies created an atmosphere of uncertainty that permeated all of Elon's ventures. The once celebrated maverick was now a figure polarizing opinion and attracting intense legal and regulatory challenges. Internal tensions surfaced as well. Executives and board members debated how to navigate the complex landscape of public relations, legal risk, and business strategy. The pressure sometimes led to clashes and turnover in key leadership roles. Elon faced difficult choices about how much control to retain and when to delegate authority. Public opinion was a double-edged sword. Elon had millions of passionate supporters who admired his vision and tenacity, but he also had vocal detractors who questioned his motives and methods. Social media amplified both praise and criticism, creating a tumultuous environment. The narrative around Elon Musk became more complex, no longer simply a heroic innovator but a controversial figure embodying the contradictions of modern entrepreneurship. Throughout these challenges, Elon's personal resolve was tested. The legal battles, media storms, and public scrutiny weighed heavily. Friends described moments of frustration and fatigue, yet also remarkable focus and determination. Elon's leadership philosophy adapted, placing greater emphasis on legal compliance, ethical considerations, and public relations strategy, without abandoning his core vision. The tension between boldness and caution defined this period. The shadows of doubt served as both obstacles and reminders of the stakes involved. Elon and his teams learned to navigate the complex realities of innovation in a hyper-connected, regulated world. This question echoed louder than ever amid the controversies and challenges. Elon Musk's journey was no longer just about technological breakthroughs, it was a profound test of character, leadership, and resilience. The coming chapters would reveal how he confronted these shadows and whether he could emerge with his vision intact or be consumed by the storm. Facing relentless scrutiny and mounting pressures across his multiple ventures, Elon Musk entered a critical phase of personal reinvention. It became clear that the old paradigms of leadership, dominating every decision with boundless energy and a near-obsessive work ethic, were no longer sustainable. The failures, controversies, and crises had exposed the limits of his previous approach. Reinvention wasn't just about salvaging businesses, it was about transforming the man at the helm, evolving into a leader who could balance ambition with wisdom, vision with humility. This transformation began quietly but deliberately. Elon started delegating more, surrounding himself with trusted executives and advisors capable of managing day-to-day operations with expertise and care. He recognized that his strength lay not in micromanagement but in setting bold direction and empowering others to execute. This shift was met with mixed reactions internally. Some welcomed the relief of autonomy, others worried about losing the driving force behind Musk's success. Elon invested time in improving emotional intelligence and communication skills, areas he had historically overlooked. He sought coaching and mentoring to better navigate interpersonal dynamics, public relations, and conflict resolution. These efforts were reflected in his interactions with employees, media, and stakeholders, showing greater patience, empathy, and strategic thinking. The reinvention extended beyond leadership style. Elon began confronting personal challenges that had long been sidelined: stress, work-life balance, and mental health. He openly discussed the toll of relentless pressure and the importance of self-care, breaking taboos in the high-performance culture of Silicon Valley. This vulnerability resonated with many, humanizing a figure often perceived as superhuman. Alongside personal growth, Elon redefined his vision for the future. While maintaining his commitment to sustainability, space exploration, and human advancement, he tempered grandiose timelines with realism. He embraced a philosophy of incremental progress, recognizing that breakthroughs often come through perseverance, iteration, and collaboration rather than overnight miracles. This tempered optimism helped rebuild trust among investors, partners, and the public. The leadership evolution was evident in corporate culture as well. Musk's companies adopted more structured governance frameworks, clearer accountability mechanisms, and a greater emphasis on diversity and inclusion. Elon championed these changes, understanding that innovative ideas flourish in environments where people feel valued and supported. The reinvention also influenced Elon's approach to innovation. He encouraged cross-disciplinary collaboration, bringing together engineers, scientists, ethicists, and business leaders to tackle complex challenges holistically. This openness to diverse perspectives sparked fresh creativity and mitigated risks. Elon's personal reinvention was not without setbacks. Old habits occasionally resurfaced: impulsive tweets, intense demands, and stubbornness. But these moments were fewer and increasingly balanced by reflection and course correction. Friends and colleagues noticed a more grounded and mature Musk, capable of inspiring without alienating. Public perception slowly shifted once again. The narrative evolved from a reckless visionary to a resilient, evolving leader learning from experience and growing stronger. This reinvention phase re-energized Elon's influence and opened doors for new partnerships and opportunities. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? These words now reflected a journey not just of external success but of internal transformation. Elon Musk's story was no longer solely about disrupting industries, it was about evolving as a person and a leader in a complex and changing world. The coming chapters would explore how this reinvention shaped the future of his companies and the legacy he hoped to leave. With his personal reinvention underway and core companies stabilizing, Elon Musk shifted focus toward new frontiers, ventures that promise to push the boundaries of technology, society, and human potential even further. The reinvigoration of Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and Twitter had laid the groundwork, but Elon's restless curiosity and appetite for bold ideas propelled him toward uncharted territories. One of the most surprising announcements came from Musk's new initiative in sustainable urban development. Drawing on Tesla's advances in battery technology and SpaceX's expertise in modular construction, Elon proposed a plan to build fully sustainable, smart cities, from the ground up. These cities would integrate renewable energy, autonomous transportation, advanced AI systems, and innovative architecture designed for efficiency and quality of life. This ambitious vision aimed to tackle some of the world's most pressing challenges: urban congestion, pollution, housing shortages, while showcasing the potential of integrated technology at scale. The project attracted attention from governments, urban planners, and environmentalists alike, sparking discussions about the future of living and the role of private enterprise in public infrastructure. Simultaneously, SpaceX accelerated its plans for Mars colonization with new partnerships and technological breakthroughs. Elon unveiled a prototype habitat designed for long-term human survival on the Red Planet, incorporating advances in life support, radiation shielding, and resource recycling. The Mars initiative increasingly embraced international collaboration, inviting space agencies and scientific institutions to participate in a shared mission. This openness marked a strategic shift from earlier competition to cooperation, reflecting lessons learned from past challenges. Neuralink expanded its focus beyond medical applications to explore interfaces that could enhance human cognition, communication, and creativity. While still cautious, Elon emphasized the transformative potential of brain-computer symbiosis, not as science fiction, but as a future reality with profound implications for education, work, and human connection. Ethical frameworks and regulatory pathways remain priorities, with Neuralink investing heavily in transparency and public engagement. In parallel, Elon ventured into energy innovation beyond Tesla's electric vehicles and solar products. He announced a bold research program aimed at next-generation fusion energy, an elusive goal that could revolutionize global power generation. Leveraging expertise from multiple scientific disciplines, this initiative sought to overcome technical barriers and develop scalable fusion reactors. The fusion project attracted top talent and significant investment, signaling Elon's willingness to tackle humanity's toughest problems head-on. On the digital front, Elon's vision for social media evolved into broader ambitions for an integrated digital ecosystem. Building on Twitter's transformation, he explored new platforms combining social interaction, decentralized finance, content creation, and virtual reality. These ventures aim to redefine how people connect, transact, and express themselves online, addressing the shortcomings of existing platforms while safeguarding privacy and authenticity. The pursuit of these new frontiers was not without risks. Each venture operated at the edge of current technology and societal norms, inviting skepticism and regulatory challenges. Elon and his teams had to navigate uncharted legal landscapes, ethical dilemmas, and technical uncertainties. The scale and complexity of these projects demanded coordination, patience, and resilience. Internally, the expansion into new frontiers required adapting organizational structures and cultures. Elon fostered a spirit of exploration balanced with rigorous project management and accountability. Cross-company collaborations became more frequent, leveraging synergies between Tesla's energy solutions, SpaceX's aerospace innovations, Neuralink's biotech expertise, and Twitter's digital platform capabilities. Elon's leadership style continued to evolve, blending visionary inspiration with pragmatic execution and inclusive decision-making. The public and investors responded with cautious enthusiasm. The new frontiers rekindled excitement about Elon's potential to shape the future in profound ways. Yet, many remained wary, mindful of past setbacks and the inherent uncertainties of pioneering ventures. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This invitation resonated with those who saw in Elon's journey a reflection of human ambition, the drive to explore, innovate, and transcend limits. As Elon Musk pushed into new frontiers, the story unfolded as an epic saga of challenge and possibility, embodying the spirit of invention and the quest for meaning in an uncertain world. The next chapters would delve deeper into the breakthroughs and obstacles that defined this audacious phase, revealing how Elon's vision for humanity's future took shape amid complexity and change. As Elon Musk propelled his companies into new territories and pushed the limits of technology, the weight of public and investor expectations grew heavier. Every move was scrutinized, every announcement dissected by the media, competitors, and fans alike. The immense pressure to deliver revolutionary results while navigating the realities of complex projects placed enormous strain on Elon and his leadership teams. Managing this pressure became a critical part of the journey, balancing transparency with optimism, realism with vision, and ambition with caution. The constant spotlight meant that Elon's personal and professional lives were inextricably linked in the public eye. His tweets, interviews, and public appearances were no longer simply communications but signals that could move markets, sway public opinion, and impact company morale. A single statement could spark excitement or controversy, highlighting the tightrope he walked daily. The expectations from investors were particularly intense. Shareholders demanded rapid progress on new technologies and ambitious growth targets, while also expecting prudent financial management. The stakes were enormous: Tesla's stock price, SpaceX's valuation, and Neuralink's funding all hinged on Elon's ability to meet or exceed these lofty goals. This created a paradox where visionary promises had to be balanced against operational realities. Elon faced criticism when timelines slipped or targets were missed, yet any perceived retreat from bold goals risked disappointing those who admired his audacity. The media's role was double-edged, at times celebrating Musk's breakthroughs, at others amplifying doubts or controversies. Headlines questioned whether the hype matched reality, fueling narratives about overreach or burnout. Social media both supported and attacked Elon with fervor, reflecting polarized public sentiment. This environment made controlling the narrative a strategic priority. Elon increasingly relied on a communications team skilled at framing messages, managing crises, and engaging key stakeholders. He also adapted his public style. While retaining his candidness, he tempered impulsive remarks and learned to steer conversations toward constructive dialogue. Internally, Elon had to manage the morale and expectations of his workforce. Employees at Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink were motivated by mission-driven purpose but also experienced the pressures of intense work environments and shifting priorities. Leadership invested in transparent communication and employee well-being programs to sustain motivation and reduce burnout. Elon's evolving leadership style, with more delegation and collaboration, helped create a more sustainable culture amid relentless demands. The personal toll of managing these expectations was significant. Elon openly acknowledged struggles with stress and the difficulty of maintaining work-life balance. Friends noted moments of vulnerability and fatigue beneath his energetic exterior. He embraced mindfulness practices and made efforts to reconnect with family and personal interests as a counterbalance to work pressures. The public's perception of Elon remained complex. While many celebrated him as a visionary hero changing the world, others saw him as a symbol of tech hubris or corporate recklessness. Navigating this polarized image required resilience and a nuanced approach to engagement. Elon's story became a reflection of the challenges facing modern innovators: how to lead transformative change in an era of instant communication, relentless scrutiny, and high stakes. The lessons learned during this period were profound. Managing expectations was not simply about controlling external narratives but about cultivating authenticity, fostering trust, and aligning vision with achievable goals. This balance was essential for sustaining long-term success and impact. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This invitation underscored the universal challenge of meeting expectations while staying true to oneself. Elon Musk's journey through the weight of expectations was a testament to the human side of innovation, the struggles, sacrifices, and growth behind headline achievements. The following chapters would explore how he leveraged these lessons to navigate critical turning points and redefine his legacy. In the high-stakes world Elon Musk inhabited, failure was never far away. The relentless pace of innovation, combined with audacious goals and public scrutiny, meant that setbacks were inevitable. What distinguished Musk and his companies was not the absence of failure, but the ability to face crises head-on, learn, adapt, and rebuild trust, both within his organizations and with the broader public. The period following multiple controversies and project delays tested Elon's crisis management skills like never before. One of the most significant setbacks was the delayed rollout of Tesla's highly anticipated next-generation battery technology. Market analysts had hyped the innovation as a game-changer that would cement Tesla's dominance for years to come. When production failed to meet promised timelines, critics pounced, accusing the company of overpromising and underdelivering. This disappointment rattled investor confidence and triggered a drop in stock price. Internally, the delay exposed operational weaknesses, from supply chain disruptions to quality control issues. Elon responded with a mix of transparency and determination. He acknowledged the delays openly during investor calls, explained the technical challenges, and outlined a clear plan for resolution. His candidness was a departure from past tendencies to downplay problems or maintain silence. Simultaneously, Musk doubled down on innovation efforts, reallocating resources to accelerate research and development. This proactive stance helped gradually restore faith among stakeholders, demonstrating accountability and commitment. SpaceX also faced a significant crisis when a high-profile Starship test flight ended in a spectacular failure. The explosion during launch was a public setback broadcast widely across news outlets and social media. For many, the incident symbolized the risks inherent in Elon's ambitious space ambitions. However, Musk leveraged the failure as a learning opportunity. He convened engineering teams to analyze the root causes, shared detailed technical reports openly with the public, and framed the setback as a necessary step on the path to Mars. This approach aligned with SpaceX's culture of iterative testing and resilience, turning a moment of embarrassment into a demonstration of transparency and grit. Neuralink's clinical trials also encountered hurdles, including regulatory delays and unexpected complications in early human testing. These challenges heightened ethical concerns and media skepticism. Elon recognized the need for improved stakeholder engagement and enhanced safety protocols. Neuralink's leadership expanded outreach efforts to medical communities, regulators, and patient advocacy groups to build trust and collaboration. Twitter, grappling with ongoing legal disputes and public relations crises, underwent a comprehensive review of policies and practices. Elon supported a restructuring of content moderation teams and implemented clearer guidelines designed to balance free expression with user safety. Despite these efforts, lawsuits and negative press persisted, underscoring the difficulty of managing a platform in a polarized digital environment. Crisis management in this era demanded agility, strategic communication, and emotional intelligence. Elon Musk learned to navigate the fine line between owning up to mistakes and maintaining confidence in the broader mission. This balance was crucial for preventing erosion of morale among employees and stakeholders. The internal culture shifted to embrace failure as an integral part of innovation rather than a sign of incompetence. Encouraging transparent reporting of issues and rapid problem-solving became core practices. Elon's personal response to crises evolved as well. He grew more reflective and composed under pressure, often emphasizing the importance of resilience and long-term vision. Colleagues noted his increased willingness to listen, seek advice, and delegate during turbulent times. This maturity strengthened his leadership credibility. Public perception, too, was influenced by how Musk and his companies managed failures. Transparent communication helped mitigate reputational damage, turning some critics into cautious supporters. Investors, reassured by accountability and recovery plans, often remained loyal despite temporary setbacks. This period highlighted the critical role of trust in sustaining innovative enterprises facing uncertainty. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This reminder resonated deeply during times of crisis, when perseverance and hope were most needed. Elon Musk's ability to confront failure, adapt, and rebuild trust was a defining aspect of his ongoing journey. It underscored that success was not linear but forged through resilience and continuous learning. The chapters ahead would reveal how these hard-won lessons shaped pivotal moments in Musk's quest to transform the future. Innovation has always been the lifeblood of Elon Musk's ventures, yet the journey to breakthrough often involved navigating a fine line between risk and reward. Under immense pressure from markets, stakeholders, and the public, Elon found himself forced to make decisions that could either propel his companies into the future or derail them entirely. The relentless push for pioneering technologies demanded boldness, but also careful calibration to avoid catastrophic failure. In the case of Tesla, the pressure to deliver affordable, mass-market electric vehicles came with daunting technical and financial risks. The Model 3 launch epitomized this challenge. Elon pushed for rapid scaling of production, adopting cutting-edge automation and ambitious timelines. Yet, this haste led to production hell, with bottlenecks, quality issues, and cost overruns threatening the company's viability. Elon faced the difficult choice of slowing down to stabilize or pressing ahead and risking financial collapse. His decision to persevere, leaning on all-night problem-solving and creative solutions, ultimately paid off. The Model 3 became a commercial success and a turning point, but only after months of intense struggle. This episode underscored the harsh realities of innovation under pressure, balancing the drive to disrupt with the need for operational discipline. SpaceX presented another crucible of innovation risk. The Starship project, intended to revolutionize space travel, pushed the limits of engineering and physics. Each test flight carried the possibility of spectacular failure, which could damage reputation and investor confidence. Yet, Elon's embrace of rapid prototyping and iterative testing, accepting failure as a stepping stone, enabled continuous improvement. The company invested heavily in simulations, data analytics, and cross-disciplinary expertise to mitigate risks while advancing the project. The tension between ambitious risk-taking and prudent management shaped SpaceX's culture and strategy. Neuralink's innovations pushed into ethically and technically uncertain territory. Developing brain-machine interfaces raised profound questions about safety, privacy, and societal impact. Elon and his team worked closely with regulators, ethicists, and medical experts to navigate these challenges, understanding that unchecked risk could lead to backlash and derail the technology's potential benefits. This cautious but proactive approach helped Neuralink maintain progress while addressing concerns. Elon's ventures into digital platforms further illustrated the balancing act. On Twitter, efforts to innovate content algorithms, monetization, and user experience had to consider risks of misinformation, censorship accusations, and user alienation. Musk's leadership pushed for experimentation, but with growing awareness of social responsibilities and the potential consequences of missteps. The tension between innovation speed and risk management became a central theme. Throughout these experiences, Elon developed frameworks to assess risk versus reward. He encouraged his teams to identify worst-case scenarios, develop contingency plans, and conduct rigorous testing before major rollouts. He also fostered an environment where failure was treated as a data point rather than a catastrophe, enabling faster iteration. At the same time, Elon remained deeply involved in high-stakes decisions, using intuition and experience to gauge when to push forward or pull back. The personal toll of operating under constant innovation pressure was considerable. Elon grappled with stress, sleep deprivation, and the burden of accountability for thousands of employees and stakeholders. Yet, he found motivation in the belief that taking calculated risks was essential to achieving transformative progress. His leadership style evolved to balance visionary optimism with grounded pragmatism, inspiring teams to embrace challenges while managing expectations. Public and investor reactions to innovation risks were mixed. Successes were celebrated as evidence of Musk's genius, while failures invited skepticism and criticism. Elon's transparent communication and willingness to admit mistakes helped maintain credibility, but the stakes remained high. The story of innovation under pressure revealed broader lessons about the nature of progress in high-tech industries, the necessity of courage, resilience, and strategic balance. This refrain reminded audiences that behind every breakthrough lay countless moments of doubt and challenge, overcome through perseverance. Elon Musk's journey illuminated the complex interplay of risk and reward in the pursuit of the future. The coming chapters would delve into how this delicate balance influenced critical milestones and the ultimate legacy he sought to build. Elon Musk's journey was not only about technological breakthroughs and business successes but also a profound evolution in his personal growth and leadership style. The intense pressures and public scrutiny forced him to reflect deeply on who he was as a leader and as a person. Early in his career, Elon was known for his relentless work ethic, fierce determination, and unyielding drive to change the world. Yet, this came with a reputation for demanding perfection, a fiery temperament, and sometimes abrasive interactions with employees and partners. Over time, the lessons learned from failures, setbacks, and successes began to shape a more nuanced approach to leadership. Musk's personal growth was evident in his increasing emphasis on empathy, collaboration, and delegation. Recognizing that he could not shoulder every burden alone, he worked to build strong leadership teams that could share the vision and execute with autonomy. This shift allowed Elon to focus more on high-level strategy and innovation while empowering others to manage day-to-day operations. The transition was not without challenges. Musk sometimes struggled to relinquish control or trust others fully, leading to moments of friction and tension within his companies. However, the benefits of shared leadership became clear as teams grew stronger and more resilient. Elon's ability to listen and incorporate diverse perspectives improved, fostering a culture of openness and creativity. Another dimension of his personal evolution was an increased awareness of work-life balance and mental health. Early in his career, Musk was notorious for grueling work hours, sometimes sleeping only a few hours per night and sacrificing personal relationships. The toll on his health and well-being was significant, and the public often speculated about burnout. In recent years, Elon acknowledged the importance of rest, reflection, and reconnecting with family and friends. He made conscious efforts to prioritize personal time and develop routines that supported his mental and emotional resilience. This growth resonated with many who admired his vulnerability and humanity. Elon's communication style also matured. While he remained candid and often unconventional in his public statements, he became more deliberate in managing his social media presence and public interactions. This balance helped maintain his authentic voice while reducing unnecessary controversies. The evolution extended to his vision for leadership's role in society. Elon increasingly embraced the responsibility of guiding not just his companies but also contributing to global conversations on ethics, sustainability, and technological impact. He engaged with policymakers, thought leaders, and communities to advocate for responsible innovation and equitable progress. This broader perspective reflected a deepening sense of purpose beyond profit or fame. Throughout this transformation, Elon maintained his core values of curiosity, resilience, and a passion for problem-solving. His personal growth did not dilute his ambition but refined it, making his leadership more effective and sustainable. Colleagues and observers noted that Elon's evolving leadership inspired loyalty and creativity, fostering environments where breakthrough ideas could flourish. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This question underscored the universal nature of growth, how challenges and self-reflection can lead to stronger, wiser leadership. Elon Musk's personal and leadership evolution was a testament to the power of continuous learning and adaptation. It illuminated the human dimension behind the technological marvels and business empires, reminding us that leadership is a journey as much as a destination. The upcoming chapters would explore how this evolved leadership shaped pivotal decisions and the legacy Elon aimed to build. As Elon Musk stood at the crossroads of his career, questions about legacy and the future loomed large. After decades of pushing the boundaries of technology, space exploration, and sustainable energy, he faced the inevitable reflection on what his work would mean for generations to come. Legacy was no longer a distant abstract, it was an urgent consideration shaping his decisions and ambitions. The companies Elon built had transformed industries and inspired millions, but he knew that legacy was more than business success or innovation milestones. It was about the lasting impact on humanity's progress and the environment. This realization deepened his commitment to projects with enduring significance, like colonizing Mars, revolutionizing transportation, and advancing brain-machine interfaces. At the same time, Elon grappled with the recognition that legacy was shaped not only by achievements but also by the values and culture embedded within his organizations. He invested efforts in nurturing ethical practices, inclusivity, and responsibility across Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and beyond. The future Elon envisioned extended beyond his own lifetime. He championed the development of sustainable technologies to address climate change, advocated for multiplanetary civilization as insurance against existential threats, and supported advances in human cognition and health. These goals reflected a profound sense of stewardship for the planet and species. Yet, legacy was also intensely personal. Elon pondered how his story, struggles, and growth could inspire others to dream big and persist through adversity. He understood that his journey was not flawless, marked by controversy, mistakes, and challenges, but it was real and human. Sharing these experiences openly was part of shaping a legacy of authenticity and resilience. Elon's future plans included expanding philanthropic efforts focused on education, renewable energy access, and scientific research. He sought to leverage his influence and resources to create opportunities for underserved communities and catalyze global innovation. This broadened focus signaled a shift toward collaborative impact beyond corporate achievements. Public and media narratives began to evolve as well, recognizing Elon's role not only as a disruptor but as a visionary committed to sustainable progress. While debates about his methods and personality continued, there was growing appreciation for the scale and ambition of his contributions. Elon himself remained humble about legacy, often emphasizing that the future belonged to the next generation of innovators and leaders. He expressed hope that his work would lay a foundation for those who would tackle challenges yet unknown. This invitation connected Elon's legacy with the universal human drive to overcome obstacles and create meaning. As the chapter closed, the question lingered: what would come next in the story of Elon Musk and the world he helped shape? The answer was still unfolding, filled with promise, uncertainty, and the enduring spirit of innovation. As the dust settled on decades of innovation, controversy, and transformation, Elon Musk found himself at a moment of deep reflection. The whirlwind of accomplishments, from electric cars reshaping the automotive landscape, rockets reaching for Mars, to neural technologies probing the human mind, had left an indelible mark on the world. Yet, beneath the headlines and achievements, Elon understood that the true measure of his journey was the lessons learned along the way. The story was not simply one of success or failure, but of growth, resilience, and the human spirit's capacity to persist against daunting odds. Looking back, Elon saw how early ambitions had evolved from youthful idealism into a complex reality requiring patience, humility, and adaptability. He recalled moments of intense pressure where decisions felt like a tightrope walk, balancing vision against pragmatism, innovation against risk. Each setback, whether a failed rocket launch or production bottleneck, was a painful but necessary chapter in the ongoing narrative. Elon's relationships had been tested and transformed. The bonds with family, friends, and colleagues had weathered storms of conflict and distance but also moments of profound connection and support. He recognized how these relationships grounded him, reminding him that beyond technology and business lay a deeply human journey. The personal sacrifices had been steep, yet the gains, both tangible and intangible, were undeniable. At the heart of this reflection was a clear understanding of leadership's true essence. Elon embraced that leadership was not about infallibility or control, but about inspiring others, fostering trust, and enabling collective success. His evolution from a lone visionary to a collaborative leader underscored this truth. The cultural shifts within his companies reflected a more inclusive, resilient approach to tackling humanity's biggest challenges. Elon also contemplated the ethical dimensions of his work, the responsibilities that came with pioneering technologies capable of altering lives and societies. He affirmed the necessity of thoughtful stewardship, transparency, and ongoing dialogue with diverse stakeholders. These principles would guide future innovations and help build a legacy grounded in positive impact. The public narrative around Elon Musk had transformed alongside his own journey. While controversies and critiques remained, there was a growing recognition of his role as a catalyst for change and a symbol of the possible. His openness about failures and lessons fostered a sense of authenticity and relatability. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This refrain, echoing throughout the story, encapsulated the enduring spirit that had propelled Elon through triumphs and trials. As this chapter closed, it was clear that while one chapter of Elon Musk's life had reached a resolution, many new beginnings awaited. The lessons learned, the growth achieved, and the vision that remained would continue to drive innovation and inspire others to push beyond boundaries. Elon Musk's story was not just a tale of technology and business, but a reflection of human perseverance, curiosity, and the quest for meaning in an ever-changing world. The end of this story was, in truth, a powerful invitation to all of us, to embrace challenges, learn from setbacks, and keep moving forward with hope and determination. Elon Musk's story does not end with personal achievements or company milestones, it extends far beyond, creating a ripple effect that continues to influence industries, cultures, and future generations. Even as Musk's ventures face new challenges and the world evolves, the vision he championed remains a powerful force driving transformation across the globe. The ripple effect begins with Tesla, which fundamentally altered the automotive industry and public perception of electric vehicles. By pushing the limits of battery technology, performance, and affordability, Tesla catalyzed a broader shift toward sustainable transportation. Traditional automakers scrambled to catch up, accelerating their own electric vehicle programs and investing heavily in green technologies. This shift has profound implications for global efforts to combat climate change, reduce pollution, and decrease dependence on fossil fuels. Beyond cars, Tesla's innovations in energy storage and solar power further expanded the clean energy ecosystem, influencing energy policies and consumer choices worldwide. SpaceX's impact extends even farther, inspiring a new era of space exploration and commercialization. Musk's vision of making humanity a multiplanetary species sparked renewed interest and investment in space technology. Governments, private companies, and academic institutions increasingly collaborate on ambitious projects, from lunar bases to Mars missions. SpaceX's reusable rocket technology revolutionized the economics of spaceflight, making it more accessible and sustainable. This democratization of space travel opens possibilities for scientific discovery, resource utilization, and global connectivity that could reshape human civilization. Neuralink, though still in early stages, has stimulated conversations about the future of human-machine interfaces, cognitive enhancement, and medical breakthroughs. Its work pushes the boundaries of neuroscience and technology, raising ethical questions and inspiring innovation in health tech and bioengineering. Neuralink's potential to treat neurological disorders and expand human capabilities challenges existing paradigms and paves the way for a new frontier of human experience. Musk's influence also permeates digital culture and communication through ventures like Twitter, which have become critical platforms for information exchange, social movements, and public discourse. The challenges of managing misinformation, free speech, and user engagement highlight the complexities of digital innovation in a hyper-connected world. Yet, the ongoing experimentation and evolution of these platforms reflect Musk's broader impact on shaping how people interact, share ideas, and mobilize globally. Beyond technology and business, Elon's ripple effect manifests in the mindset he inspired, the audacity to dream big, the willingness to tackle seemingly impossible problems, and the resilience to push through failures. Entrepreneurs, scientists, activists, and everyday people draw inspiration from his journey, embracing risk and innovation in their own fields. Educational programs, startup ecosystems, and public dialogues increasingly reflect this spirit of possibility and disruption. The ripple effect also raises important questions about responsibility, equity, and the future of work. As Musk's technologies transform industries and societies, debates intensify around automation, environmental impact, data privacy, and ethical innovation. Policymakers, industry leaders, and communities grapple with balancing progress and precaution, opportunity and inclusion. Elon's legacy, therefore, is not fixed but dynamic, shaped continuously by how these ripple effects are managed and amplified. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This recurring invitation underscores the ongoing nature of Musk's impact, a call for each individual to find their own drive and contribute to shaping the future. As this chapter closes, it becomes clear that Elon Musk's vision, despite its controversies and complexities, has set in motion changes that will reverberate for decades. His story is a testament to the power of vision, persistence, and innovation to not only redefine industries but to influence how humanity envisions its place in the cosmos. The ripple effect continues, growing, evolving, and inspiring new waves of change. Elon Musk's journey has been a relentless push toward the edges of what's possible, but the story doesn't end with the milestones he's already achieved. Instead, it sparks the imagination to look beyond the horizon, to envision a future shaped by bold ideas, fearless innovation, and a commitment to transforming humanity's destiny. The impact of Musk's vision is felt not only in what has been accomplished but in the dreams it has ignited worldwide. The electric vehicles that now populate roads in every corner of the globe owe much to Tesla's pioneering spirit. But the future of transportation extends far beyond today's models. Concepts like autonomous electric fleets, hyperloop systems, and interplanetary travel hint at a world where movement is faster, cleaner, and more connected. Musk's early bets on battery technology and sustainable energy are laying the groundwork for smart cities powered by renewable resources, where energy is stored and shared efficiently across vast networks. The dream of colonizing Mars, once relegated to science fiction, is gradually becoming a tangible goal. SpaceX's Starship and other advanced spacecraft technologies aim to make interplanetary travel routine, opening new frontiers for human settlement, scientific research, and cultural exchange. This vision challenges humanity to think on a cosmic scale, redefining what it means to be a species on Earth and beyond. The potential of Neuralink and related technologies invites us to reconsider the boundaries between mind and machine. Brain-computer interfaces could revolutionize healthcare by treating neurological diseases, enhancing cognitive abilities, and expanding modes of communication. These advances may usher in new forms of creativity, empathy, and understanding, transforming how we interact with technology and each other. The digital revolution continues to accelerate, with platforms evolving to balance innovation with responsibility. Musk's involvement in social media and AI-related projects signals a future where information is more accessible, yet demands greater vigilance to ensure accuracy, privacy, and equity. The ethical and societal implications of these developments will require ongoing dialogue and collaboration across disciplines and communities. Beyond technology, Elon Musk's story inspires a cultural shift toward embracing risk, resilience, and visionary thinking. Young entrepreneurs, scientists, and dreamers are motivated to challenge norms, pursue ambitious goals, and learn from failures. Education systems and innovation hubs worldwide increasingly emphasize creativity, interdisciplinary learning, and global impact. However, the future inspired by Musk's vision also calls for careful stewardship. As technology reshapes societies, questions about sustainability, social justice, and ethical innovation become paramount. Balancing rapid progress with inclusivity and environmental responsibility will be essential to realizing a future that benefits all. This invitation reminds us that the future is not predetermined but forged by collective will, courage, and imagination. Elon Musk's legacy is a beacon encouraging us all to look beyond the immediate horizon, to dream bigger, and to work tirelessly toward a better tomorrow. As we close this chapter, the question remains, how will we each contribute to the unfolding story of humanity's future? Inspired by Musk's vision, the possibilities are as vast as the universe itself, waiting to be explored. Elon Musk's story is often told through the lens of groundbreaking technologies and audacious goals, but behind the headlines lies a deeply human narrative about balancing ambition with well-being. The relentless pursuit of innovation, while inspiring, exacts a toll not only on Musk himself but on those around him and the broader community involved in his ventures. Understanding this human side is essential to grasp the full complexity of his legacy and the lessons it offers for future innovators. From early on, Musk's work ethic was legendary. Long hours, intense focus, and an uncompromising drive defined his approach to problem-solving and leadership. Yet, this approach came with significant costs. Musk openly acknowledged struggles with burnout, stress, and the strain on personal relationships. The pressure to deliver revolutionary products and meet sky-high expectations often pushed him to the brink, revealing the dark side of visionary entrepreneurship. The challenge of balancing professional ambition with personal health became a recurring theme. Musk's journey illustrates that even the most driven individuals must confront the limits of human endurance and the need for self-care. Over time, he began to recognize the importance of mental and physical well-being, integrating routines and practices to support resilience. This shift not only improved his own sustainability but also influenced the culture within his companies. Encouraging employees to find balance, fostering supportive environments, and addressing workplace stress became increasingly important. The human side of innovation also extends to the teams and communities involved in Musk's projects. Behind every Tesla, SpaceX rocket, and Neuralink prototype stands a diverse group of individuals whose talents, dedication, and well-being are critical to success. Navigating the demands of high-pressure environments requires empathy, communication, and leadership that values people as much as results. This balance is vital to sustaining creativity, collaboration, and long-term achievement. Moreover, Musk's ventures have sparked broader conversations about the societal impact of rapid technological change. Automation, artificial intelligence, and space colonization raise ethical questions about job displacement, privacy, and equitable access. These challenges highlight the need for innovation to be coupled with thoughtful consideration of human consequences and inclusive policymaking. The human story behind innovation is also about failure and vulnerability. Musk's public missteps and candid reflections on setbacks have made him a more relatable figure, demonstrating that resilience is born from embracing imperfection and learning from mistakes. This transparency fosters a culture where risk-taking is encouraged but grounded in humility. This question reminds us that behind every ambitious goal is a personal journey of struggle, hope, and perseverance. As this chapter closes, the lesson is clear: innovation without humanity risks becoming hollow, while balancing ambition with well-being creates a foundation for sustainable progress. Elon Musk's story encourages us to pursue bold dreams but also to care for ourselves and others along the way. The future of innovation depends not only on technology but on the people who create it and the values they uphold. This balance, difficult yet essential, shapes a legacy that goes beyond products to touch the heart of what it means to be human in a rapidly changing world. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?